Welcome. What is menopause and where the hell am I? Chances are you're asking yourself that question if you have found this video. So menopause has been misunderstood and just misdiagnosed for many, many years. Centuries ago, it was up to the woman and her female entourage, as it were, to tell when and if she was in menopause. Now we have medicalized it quite drastically, and often to get a menopause diagnosis, you have to run through some hoops, provide some blood samples, and unfortunately, often it is not diagnosed properly. So here we are. Perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Who, what, where, when. So perimenopause is used to describe any stage before the cessation of your periods, so you'll bleed. This gets more complicated if you are not bleeding, I understand that. But if you are bleeding, then you might find that your cycles are a little erratic. They might be longer, shorter, etc. And you might be experiencing symptoms such as stiffness, anxiety, hot flashes, sleepless nights, frozen shoulder, itching, dry mouth, burning mouth. It's the gift that keeps on giving, honestly. You may experience some, none, or all of these symptoms. So don't be frightened if you're not experiencing any of them and you think that this is coming your way. It's so individual. Please don't panic. If you are not bleeding, if you are on birth control, etc., or anything that prevents you from having your monthly bleed, you can still be perimenopausal and experience all of those symptoms in a variety of different ways. You might not just be able to track those cycles. You might not have that lovely definitive, I am or I am not bleeding, etc. Once we reach a point where you have not bled for 12 months, then you are menopausal. The day after that, you are postmenopausal. So that menopausal is pretty much one day after the 12 months that you've not bled. So these phrases, etc., are interchangeable and will be by medical professionals, etc. So if you go to the doctors and they say you're menopausal, that doesn't mean that you're not perimenopausal. It means the language they are using is slightly different. So very interchangeable. But if you are post-menopause, it is usually because you have not had a period for 12 months. If you have had something like a hysterectomy or surgery or chemotherapy, etc., then again, this becomes a little more complicated where you would class yourself as, because technically, if you're no longer bleeding, you're postmenopausal, but you might have only just started experiencing all of these symptoms and would prefer to class yourself as perimenopausal because you haven't gone through those symptoms yet. So it really is not a fixed language. There's no fixed point. From a medical point of view, yep, you have that no bleeds, postmenopausal, if you're still bleeding, perimenopausal, but really don't worry too much about what label you put on things. If you are in your 30s and you seem to be experiencing some of the symptoms that we talk about for perimenopause, it is more than likely that you could be in perimenopause. We often hear that, oh, we're not in perimenopause until 45 and beyond. That simply isn't true for a lot of us. And I started my perimenopausal symptoms very, very much in my 30s. And I'm very aware of that. If you're tuned into your cycles as well, if you are cycle tracking, and I really recommend that you do start if you're not already, it's just a brilliant way of getting in tune with your body, then you might know very, very early. For lots of us that we're a little bit disconnected from where we are, and again with the birth control element, you might not know until you are sort of deep into your 40s, and then you start to get a bit of a niggly feeling that something isn't quite right. So it really doesn't matter how old you are. If you are very early 30s and you're in your 20s and you feel like you're experiencing some of these perimenopausal symptoms, please, please, please go to your GP and talk about it, because there could be a myriad of things that would need a little bit of intervention, such as thyroid deficiencies, etc. So always great to get checked out. So that's where we are with some of the terminology. If you want to know where you are, obviously there's the bleeding situation that might make things very, very clear for you that you're already postmenopausal. If you are on that birth control or you're still bleeding, starting to track your symptoms and the intensity of the symptoms is a brilliant way of getting in tune with where you are and perhaps how far along you are in this journey. So you may find that you've had some symptoms just like increased body temperature, extra sweating, maybe more anxiety, sleepless nights, and those have maybe increased, or maybe they have fallen away and other things have come in like body aches, frozen shoulder, dodgy joints, etc. So have a track. I really recommend that you download a period tracker, or I do have a PDF that you can use that will just track your moods, your physical feelings, and just where you are with bleeding, if that is still something that's part of your routine. Get in touch with that. Talk to other people, share your experiences. That's why I love women's circles and the menopause courses, because we can just come together and say, hey, I experienced this, do you? And you might find that there are some little red flags that have been going a lot longer than you thought they were, and you can go, yes, absolutely, I'm experiencing that as well. Brilliant way. But if you are more in touch with you and you then go out and talk to other people, you're just going to increase this wonderful community that we have of women, and increase the education and the sharing, and just destigmatize everything. So use all the other people's experiences, track your own, and then if you feel like you want to perhaps go down the HRT route, or you just feel like you would like a bit of medical advice, go see your GP, but go armed with your symptom list, your little tick exercise. I've ticked all of these symptoms. If you can go with where your cycles are at, that would be amazing. If you are bleeding, so you can say, okay, well, my cycle was here and now it's here, along with these symptoms, this is where I think I'm at. Often, and unfortunately this is very often, there will be a blood test involved, just to see if you are in the perimenopause. These blood tests are not accurate, and it will very much depend on where you are with your cycle. So you can choose to have them, you can choose to say no. It's entirely up to you. If you do have them and it comes back that you are not in the menopause, really don't take no for an answer, because it could just be that you were at the wrong time in your cycle. If you're being advised to have blood tests for other things, like I mentioned, the thyroid, brilliant, go for it. Always great to get a little MOT. Make sure that you're not deficient in anything, like vitamin D or B12, etc., because some of those things, they're a real possibility. But if it is really just that blood test to assess where your hormone levels are at, again, it's your choice. Do you want to? Can you just sort of push through without it? It's a personal choice. If you do choose to have the blood test, and like I said, it comes back negative, don't take no for an answer. It might come back positive for menopause. Congratulations. And then you have got all of the choices that the GPs offer. What I would suggest is educate yourself away from the GP. There are so many wonderful resources out there. The Newson Clinic is perfect. Menopause Matters is wonderful. Get all of the information that you can do. Go to courses, go to circles, and just find out all that you can about the options in terms of HRT. You have patches, gels, pills, pessaries, all sorts, and they're going to be very specific on your needs. Somebody that is suffering vaginal atrophy and somebody that is suffering hot flushes may not need the same thing. They might do, they might not. So it is really personal to you. Find out what symptoms you're having, and then you can find the best way forward for you. I hope this helps. I hope this hasn't confused and scared you. Always welcome for questions if you want to know more. Take care.